Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast called Coconut Chronicles, A Coconut's Diary through South Africa. Mm-hmm. I'm your host, Abby.
And I'm Rita. Hello.
And we just want to welcome you here.
Yeah, guys, you know what it is. This podcast is about touching on the much shied away topic about being a coconut in South Africa and creating a safe space for it. You can obviously consider us once again as your coconut aunties on all things coconutism, or coconuts. But yeah, we're going to freestyle. This episode, we're doing something a little bit different. We're starting a new series, in fact.
Yes. So I clearly come in to tell you what this is about.
Yes.
So just for you guys, we just wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of this amazing community, contributing to the conversation. And as a thank you to that, and the whole point of this podcast was to start a discussion. Yes. In this series, we will actually be highlighting your TikTok comments, your YouTube comments, and just the pain points as well, Instagram as well, thank you. The pain points of being a coconut that you have experienced in your life. And we just wanted to give a shout out to the name because we think it's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. I mean, if you guys have a better name, just let us know. But for now,
it's called Coconuts Connect.
Yeah, so it's our first episode on this.
Yes.
Consider it, your Q&As on your socials, wherever you want to reach us. We want to answer your questions, man, and kind of get into a deeper dive of what you guys are interested in.
Yes.
First one being, I guess, we're not going to go too much into the order of things, but I guess just touching on questions that we thought were quite interesting. Mm-hmm. Topics that we haven't gone into full depth as yet, slowly but surely. But I think in terms of just how the questions were worded is something that we thought, hey, let's kind of expand on it. And perhaps we might even have a voting system in the future. Who knows? But our first one starting off from Nanyeng, NAN_YENG. He or she says that the word coconut is problematic. I wouldn't even use it to describe myself. And this is from our TikTok page.
And what's interesting about this pain point and just this, what's been brought up here is this has actually been very common.
Very.
It's been quite a common comment that we've kind of actually
Why are you saying they call themselves coconuts?
It's embarrassing.
What are they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on our podcast in a previous episode and a little bit on our social media, but in case you have missed it, is that we're trying to redefine the term because we're trying to take away its power and its negative connotation. And we have been discussing, just interestingly enough, how different genders there's a double standard for female coconuts and male coconuts. There definitely is a double standard. And Rita, you had a lot more insight into this, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, from my, I guess, what's this third view, right? Because just to understand for a coconut boy, right, it's a lot harder on themselves. I mean, we've even had viewers message us about I guess that double standard, how it's experienced for a coconut boy compared to a coconut girl. A coconut girl can still be feminine and, still be considered as a woman herself, but then for a coconut boy, it somehow emasculates their masculinity. I was close, but it knocks down their masculinity because how can you not know your own African language? You must not be a man.
Yeah.
So it has that connotation. So we understand why there's a derogatoriness towards the term coconut because that's how it was kind of cultivated. But still, there is a sense of needing to redefine it because, for example, just from my high school experience, it wasn't ever a thing where I had a positive experience being called that, right? And you can agree as well. Yes. Like when we were called coconuts growing up, we're like, what is that? Especially on my side, I was like, how dare you? Don't box me into that little thing, but now kind of understanding, we decide what holds, power over us, right? Yeah. We decide what terms can be described for us. And I think us redefining it, there is power to that. There is, just like with the N-word, being cultivates into something,
It's empowered African Americans to
Yes.
take back that power.
Yeah.
Just what I also found interesting when you were talking about the gender archetypes of the word, I also think there is this historic uncomfortability with the word, and that's just a made-up word that I just used, so don't use that word. I just make it sound cool.
Yeah. Period.
I think there's also this uneasy apartheid residue of sacrificing your blackness to become white.
Yeah.
And I think in my experience, I've been a lot more targeted from black people than white people because of the racist connotation of it. Yeah. Like you're choosing to side with the white
There we
man.
go. And
I do think
choosing preference.
Racial preference, as we have discussed in the previous episode. But it's what I find interesting is that we're trying to redefine that terminology and that word. But do you think, in your personal opinion, in the context of South Africa and our country's history, do you think that could ever actually fully be erased from the word coconut?
Absolutely not. I think just if we had to use a reference of the N-word, we would always know where it comes from, right? Like there's always a reference of, okay, there's a root to this word.
Yeah.
But then how you use it definitely can change the narrative. So I think that it will always be like 10% derogatory and then 90%, we spin its head, right? And we actually use that term to create whatever image that we want to behold. So I think, yes, there's an acceptance that the term coconut will always have some sort of residue of derogatoriness, but is there any use or any merit in us actually using it for something else so that we can remove its power? Absolutely. Yeah. That, two things can be true at once. So
that's true. And then just down in the comments, guys, just give your thoughts on, do you think as a community in South Africa, could we ever actually own the term and erase the history behind it?
True.
Because we would love to hear from you and just what you think as well.
Yeah, and I mean, even just the sense of different generations as well, chipping into this conversation, because, one generation might disagree completely, depending on whatever their experience was with the term coconut. But the term coconut now in a younger generation could mean something completely different. Or it would have less of a rigidness, right, towards any derogatory term. Like, I think that's the interesting point of the coconut term, is that perhaps if I was in my 50s, I would, have like a little bit of a disgruntled response to it, perhaps, because that's the time I come from. But now it's like, okay, yes, there's hints of discomfort, but I still want to embrace the fact that it's speaking to a truth.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I get the point that you're making, but I do think I'm going to disagree here. Because remember with the bullying episode, I referenced the beautiful model who had done the activism work and how she was eloquent, well-spoken, and she got a lot of backlash for that. And this is coming from
Black people.
A younger generation and in her experience of a private school, and this predominantly came from black men in her experience, as well as white students, but it was actually predominantly from the black community. So I personally, in my experience, have not actually seen that progression.
Really?
And I would just love for the Gen Z generation
Gen
to
Alpha.
see Gen Alpha, Gen Z, like, what have your personal experiences been around the word coconut, like being a coconut, or there's also other variations of it, like we speak about cheese girls, Oreos. How has your generation experienced that experience?
And also, which term do you prefer?
That's also an interesting
because
one.
we're still in the same category, technically, right? Like there's going to be all sorts of beautiful colors associated to us, names and, whatever nicknames that come out of the box. But like, which term is perhaps even the most accepted amongst all generations? It would be quite interesting. So
please let us know your thoughts. And then the second point of discussion that we're going to be just stabbing myself in the eye.
Sorry.
We've got two comments here, and just from two different perspectives of coconutism in the workplace. So Letando Kosi 9312, please forgive my pronunciation. I'm really sorry for butchering anything. They said, I can relate to the corporate advantage of the coconut accent. I had a previous manager admit to me that she hired me in part because of my accent and good English. At the same time, I felt it diminished my qualifications. This comment can be found on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
This comment comes from our TikTok channel. Bruva said...
brother. We don't know. Bruva or brother.
Can you help me? You're not helping me right now. You're my support system.
I don't know how it's pronounced. I think it's one of the two. But honestly, these names, how they spelled, I mean, even our next one is interesting.
The judgment in our voices.
Sorry.
Anyway, back to the points of discussion. Said they had gotten bullied and treated differently in the workspace due to their accent and being a coconut. Your mental health is sent through the ringer. It's insane. So we just wanted to bring up these kind of different perspectives of different corporate environments and people's different experiences, because on the first hand, in our accent,
there was an advantage. Yeah,
it actually has, and I've experienced this advantage in my own workspace experience, because you're perceived as being more educated and intellectual when it perhaps is not actually the truth of everything. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting that in the job market, it gives you the advantage. And I can understand where that resentment for that coconut white accent can come through and be manifested when you are given privilege just because of that. Yep. I think that's very interesting. But at the same time, and we spoke a little bit about this in our previous episode, is the whitewashing that happens in corporate spaces and what that can actually cost you. Yeah. I didn't realize, I personally haven't experienced this, but like I said, just because I haven't experienced it doesn't mean it hasn't been someone else's experience of being ostracized and targeted. But with that being said, a very good friend of mine had this work colleague who didn't have the white accent, so people didn't take him seriously. And he was actually really intelligent. So and when they actually put him in a position where he led a project, people were just like, what a waste of our time. We could have been having this amazing output of work, but the prejudice and perception had diminished his career and actually hindered his growth in the company. So it's quite interesting that those realities exist at the same time and how they can pervasively feed each other. Yeah. So I was just like, that's quite an interesting topic to point out.
Yeah. And I think once again, it depends on which workplace that you're working in. I think specifically probably on Brother's point, he was in a predominantly more blacker space perhaps, because I would say that the only time that it would work against you is if the accent is not needed. Like if it's a thing that, oh no, we don't need that here. Like you should just show up as, one of us. And as you're saying, like in corporate spaces, unfortunately, as we all know, in leadership spaces, it's not as diverse as it should be.
Not as encouraged.
Yeah. So it definitely comes down to what is actually needed at the end of the day in that workplace. And if your accent stands out from that, then it does become a problem. But very interesting.
We'd also just love to hear if you've perhaps had an experience that hit the middle ground, perhaps not on either side of the extremes. Maybe there are environments and industries that have actually managed to crack the code of giving room for vernacular as well as English. I just wanted to know, has anyone actually experienced that? Perhaps it's also a generational thing that we're perhaps overlooking as well on our podcast. So,
or has there been any progression?
Yes. So just let us know what your experiences in your work life have been like.
And the different treatments, hey? It's very interesting. So then for our next one, this is coming from Child Free by Choice.
That is a username. We're not.
Yeah, we're not.
Being controversial.
That is an actual profile name. And I think this is from our TikToker. So I'm assuming... Okay, so he or she, let me be neutral, said, I loved this life, was born in Sandton. I was bullied, and even now people ask me where you're from, like where are your roots, when are you going home, and you think you're better. So I think even just that last statement is what I would kind of sum up for this question, is that when a coconut gets confronted, there's that assumption that they are thought as to be better than others.
It's not that we're thought of, it's that people think we think we're better than others.
Yeah.
And I think that is a toxic misconception, because if you go in with the attitude of thinking, this person thinks they're above me, you're not going to approach them. Who wants to socialize with you was about to swear. Sorry. A snob and someone who's pretentious.
A cocky coconut. Why do we need them around us? You know, that time, I mean, just hearing from this person's comment is that he felt quite isolated, like already just... there was a prejudice basically placed on him whenever he went home. Yeah. So we can definitely relate to that, and it is that ongoing journey for coconuts who still have to go back to whatever Black roots that they're coming from. It's the reality. So.
Yeah. But I also think with this podcast and what we're trying to do here with opening up this discussion is actually allowing coconuts to come as they are. To not be judged and to allow people to actually see that we're not snobby, terrible people all the time. Let's not
all the time. We know that
you
there's
get snobby, terrible people everywhere. So let's be real.
There are some snobby coconuts, I will say. I've had some cocky ones, and I'm like, man, it's just...
Okay, well, then maybe that's not our plan.
That's not for us. No, we want to actually understand people.
And we want to have humility and grace with each other. I think the reality is that that's actually the exception, not the rule.
There we go.
So I just wanted to let viewers, like, have you had this assumption about coconuts? Where do you think that assumption comes from?
Yeah.
Is it the media that you're exposed to? Is it the family? Is it perhaps just your friendship groups? Like, where does that exposure come from? Because we'd love to unpack where this perception is rooted. So just let us know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, please do. And then for our last one.
Can you pronounce the name?
It's Tesha. I think it's Tesha. I think it's Tesha.
Yeah. We just wanted to also say that we feel so grateful to have our community and just to see the support. Even when people have perhaps misunderstood, they've shown a lot of humility and grace in their misunderstanding and just saying, wow, I actually hadn't thought about it that way. And this commenter said, but respect for what you're doing, ladies. It may seem irrelevant to many, but it's creating awareness for people that have struggled with this, and that is amazing. And I think that was the purpose of our podcast.
Firstly, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. We didn't want coconuts to feel like they're alone, and I don't think... Because it's a topic that's actually not spoken about.
Absolutely.
That's where prejudices and misconceptions can really... fester, I suppose, if that's the word you want to use. And then I don't think, what I love about what this commenter brought up is that people think this is irrelevant. People, and I've experienced this as a coconut, it's just like, this is the new South Africa, kumbaya, let's just ignore
Rainbow
it.
Nation.
But like we touched on previously, is that whitewashing has become more common. And the idea of being a coconut is actually not as... What's the word I'm looking for? The terminology I'm looking for. It's not as unseen as it usually was. It formerly was. And I think there's a lot more of us than we give credit for, and we're not connecting with each other and actually having the conversations. And I think this has created a lot of space for compassion for everybody. And we just want to say thank you to the community for that, and just shout out to you guys.
Shout out, big shout outs, man. It's not an easy thing to do, so bear with us as well. I mean, we're not going to always have the, answers to, everything. And I think that's the whole point of having this platform. So yeah, man, join the conversation.
And sometimes even we get it wrong. And I think that's also what's been amazing, is that we're also learning so much.
We really are.
And just that perspective and that journey has also been amazing for us. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah. And we'll keep it pushing.
Yes.
So I think this is our closing. If you guys have any more questions that you want us to highlight on, I don't know if we've we haven't missed anything.
We haven't missed anything, but also just with this series, I think we're going to make it part of our channel. We definitely are going to be doing more of your, highlighting more of your comments. So be active in the comment section. We really love hearing from you guys. Yes. And we just want to say thank you again for your amazing support. And please comment all over our socials.
Yes.
On YouTube, it is Coconut Chronicles ZA, as well as Instagram. And then TikTok, it's coconut.chronicles.
Yeah.
So just
tag us.
And also always remember, guys, that this is a community of respect,
absolute respect. Sound like a principal. Yes, you do. Absolute respect, but for real though. No fights, no cat fights.
No, and we always try and have compassion for each other's perspective and stories. So always remember that. But thank you for being an amazing community so far. So
we'll check you out next time, guys.
Yes.
See you.
Bye.